So thank you and welcome to this event, and I'm very honored and happy to have a chance to talk to this movement, which in many ways began here, but has spread across the country. And I want to start by talking about what I think of as the problem. And I'm told that out here when you tell a story, you need to begin with an image like this. Once upon a time, there was a place called Lesterland. Now, you don't know from the introduction because it's a secret, so please don't tell anybody, but my first name is actually Lester, so I'm allowed to make fun of Lesters, and I want to make fun of Lesters for a moment in describing the problem by understanding this place called Lesterland. So Lesterland looks a lot like the United States. Like the United States, it has about 300 million people, and of those 300 and some million people, 144,000 are named Lester. So that means 0.05% of Lesterland is named Lester. Now, Lesters in Lesterland have this extraordinary power. There are two elections in every election cycle in Lesterland. There's a general election, and there is a Lester election. And in the Lester election, the Lesters get to vote, and in the general election, all citizens over 18, if you have an ID in some states, get to vote. But here's the trick. To run in the general election, you must do extremely well in the Lester election. You don't necessarily have to win, but you must do extremely well. Now, this is a picture of democracy in Lesterland. What can we say about Lesterland? Well, we can say, number one, as the Supreme Court said in Citizens United, the people have the ultimate influence over elected officials in Lesterland, because after all, there is a general election. But there's that general election only after the Lesters have had their way with the candidates who hope to run and win in that general election. Number two, obviously, this dependence upon the Lesters produces a subtle, understated, we might say camouflaged bending to keep the Lesters happy. And number three, reform that angers the Lesters is, we might say, unlikely. Okay, so that's Lesterland. There are three things I want you to understand now that you understand Lesterland. Number one, the United States is Lesterland. The United States is Lesterland. The United States also looks like this, also has two elections. One's called the general election. The other we should call the money election. In the general election, all citizens over 18, if you have an ID in some states, get to vote. In the money election, it's the funders who get to vote, the relevant funders of the campaigns. And as in Lesterland, to run in the general election, you must do extremely well in the money election. You don't necessarily have to win, but you must do extremely well. And here's the key. There are just as few relevant funders in our democracy as there are Lesters in Lesterland. And you say, really? 0.05%? Well, here are the numbers. In this election cycle, 0.3% of Americans, 0.3, 1/3 of 1%, have given $200 or more in an election. 0.055% have given the maximum amount to any congressional or presidential candidate. 0.01% have given $10,000 or more in the election cycle. 0.0003% have given $100,000 or more. And my favorite statistic, 0.00042%, for those of you doing the numbers, you know that's 132 Americans, gave 60% of the super PAC money that was used in this last election cycle. So I look at this range, 0.3 to 0.01, and I'm a lawyer. I think it's fair for me to say it's about